Yep. Inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I have never seen anything like this, man. With the slump continuing, 2 straight losses, not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man. What can this slump that I'm on? The slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. I'm gonna burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th, is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday, and yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. The worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. Broke the slump yesterday as the slump discontinues. The slump continues. Somebody fucking kill me, please. I don't even know what I should do at this point other than potentially end it all. What's up, everybody? It's Toad back with you with Toadstool Sports. It is Wednesday, March 18th. We're going to talk more March Madness stuff. First 4 continues. I was correct on both games last night. They were both kind of crazy, although both teams that won really had the lead for the majority of the game, especially Howard. That was almost an epic collapse in that game. I can't believe that game was even close at the end of it. And then Texas didn't really have that big of a lead, but that still would have been quite an implosion at the end of that game, too, if that had happened. Pretty crazy. But they both advance. We'll talk about it. There might be some value on looking at Texas against BYU, man. Obviously, Howard, I mean, they're going to have to play whichever. I think they're playing Michigan, whatever 1 seed they're playing. Yeah, I mean, they're not going to win that, needless to say. But we did get the play right that I gave out with South Alabama yesterday. They were winning at halftime. Outright. Then they had a really bad second half, but they lost by like 11 or something. So I think it was a wire-to-wire cover. I'll take it. I mean, I wasn't really expecting the outright win, obviously, although they kind of teased it. Get some water here. The more that I think about it, I probably should have actually elevated to UNC Wilmington to a play. I mean, it was just like so obvious that Yale was going to be in a bad hangover spot after they've been in the tournament so many years in a row now, whatever, and it was just assumed they were going to win the Ivy again, and they should have. Like, the way that they lost that game was completely insane. I mean, they're seconds away from being in the tournament, and then 2 days later, they're going to play UNC Wilmington, and sure enough, UNC Wilmington won the game outright, so probably should have given that one out, too. Stylistically, it made sense, too, because Yale is not a speed-up team, and those are the types of teams that beat Wilmington, but whatever, let's talk about tonight. We have the first 4 continuing the first matchup, the 16 seed play-in between the worst 2 teams that are in the field, Lehigh and Prairie View A&M. Lehigh, the winners of the Patriot League, because Navy, who is playing tonight as well, by the way, in the NIT, Navy got bounced because of a bad clock operator. And then Lehigh beat the team that beat them, BU. Lehigh, I mean, they're not a good team, but Prairie View A&M, they were like the 8th seed in the SWAC. Really nothing special here. I mean, this game, I don't have a read on this game at all. Like last night, I felt most strongly about Howard, really. This game, I mean, you can see the money's come in on Lehigh. They're up from 1.5 to 3.5 now here. So if you like Lehigh, you've kind of missed some of the value on it. 66% of tickets, 84% of the cash on them. I mean, if you're picking these games in pools or something like that, I guess I would pick Lehigh because they're a decent favorite at this point. It looks like the money's coming in that way. A lot of times, it's not what happens, though. Like these first 4 games, a lot of times the team you don't expect to win wins. I mean, it seems like people are already kind of penciling Lehigh into the matchup against whatever 1 seed they're going to face. But maybe that won't be the case. I think they're going to play Florida if they win this game. Yeah, I mean, the money looks like it is coming in on Lehigh, though, but I really have no good read on this game at all. And then I don't think I have a good read on the other game either, with SMU and Miami, Ohio here, which is really, I mean, it's an interesting game. It's kind of crazy. Of course, Miami, Ohio, and SMU, I mean, these are the last two teams to get into the field. I've heard some people say Miami, Ohio was the last team to get in. Some people said SMU was the last team to get in. It looks like the public is on Miami, Ohio, though, man, which I kind of thought would be the case. I mean, they like the story. I mean, everybody has been saying, oh, Miami, Ohio needs to get into the field, you know, whatever. Like, everybody, you know, convinced that Miami, Ohio belongs in the field and on the bubble, even though they're significantly worse than all the other teams. And in fact, they might actually be the biggest underdog in any of these first four games that we've ever seen. I can't remember one being this big, at least. Miami, Ohio, 71% of the tickets and only 69% of the cash on them. SMU down to a 7-point favorite here from 8. So there was an initial move against them, but it seems like the public side is the Miami, Ohio side. You know, just I think they are definitely an overrated team, obviously. I've been saying that all year. But the committee gave them, like, the best draw that they could have, probably. They're playing against SMU. SMU, not a good defense. Neither of these teams are good defenses. But you could make the argument that, well, SMU is basically a similar style of team to Miami, Ohio. They're just better at it, which, you know, I could see that argument as well, which would mean that you do want to look towards SMU here. And when you do have teams that are more offense-oriented like SMU, they're a somewhat fast-paced team. Miami, Ohio, as KenPom has them at 93rd in the country. Miami, Ohio is a little bit faster in that they're also much more offensive-oriented, although SMU is actually better on both sides of the ball, defense and offense. Miami, Ohio, 15th luckiest team in the country. SMU, very unlucky, by the way. So really all the KenPom numbers are kind of saying you should look towards SMU here. They're better on both sides of the ball. The tempo, basically both teams are going to kind of want to go up speed. The luck index is basically saying SMU as well. I'm not really going to disagree with it, but a couple of issues with it are that these games are in Dayton, Ohio, so the location is definitely beneficial to Miami, Ohio. Like, their crowd's going to show up for this game, right? Like, they're in the tournament. It's considered a tournament game. They're actually very close to Dayton, I'm pretty sure. So their crowd is going to pack the arena for this probably. So it's probably going to be one of the more well-attended first four games. So that's one issue that I would have with actually wanting to actually play SMU here. Miami, Ohio also has a lot of continuity. That's one thing that, you know, we saw that happen with, like, Drake last year. Like, continuity does matter. It can get lesser teams over the hump sometimes. So that's the other thing. Like, this Miami, Ohio team has played together for quite a while. KenPom gives you that number, which I shouldn't show this because you should go find KenPom's numbers, man. Or, I mean, go buy KenPom, I should say. But he's got them in that 7th in minutes continuity. So basically, they're one of the most continuous teams in the country. Is that what I want to say? Meaning they have all these guys that came back for multiple years, whatever, which is pretty rare in college basketball at this point with the NIL and the transfer and stuff. So that's one thing. Like, when you have that much continuity, you're used to playing together, and you do play better together. So that's the other issue I'd really have with wanting to do this here. You know, an over somewhat makes sense to me in this game, although the total did drop to 163. We did see the late game last night went way under, I think, which kind of surprised me because those teams are not good defenses either. But Texas, I believe, does play slow. These two teams don't do that. So the over kind of does make sense to me in this game. But the one thing you have to worry about with an over, we're going to talk about this in these tournament games, is that these teams still have to get used to the new arena. They have to get used to the sight lines. So, like, to start out the game, they might not be that great offensively because they got to, again, adjust to the arena. So that would be the one issue with that. Although, you know, once they get used to it, the over still could happen for sure. Like, I'm not saying blindly play under in every single one of these games. And the unders make more sense early in these games for the most part as well. Usually when you have a setup like this, you know, kind of fast-paced, better offense, usually the better team is the way that you want to look to cover the number here because higher scoring means it's going to be easier to cover that number. Better team is likely to win the game. But, yeah, I mean, I already told you what I think. I have my issues with it. I have a slight lean to SMU in that one, but not strong. And then really, I think whichever team wins this, even though they will be coming out of having played a game already, I don't think either of these teams matches up very well against Tennessee, man, which we'll talk about when it happens. But, Tennessee is just completely different. They slow it down. They play really good defense. They get a lot of offensive rebounds, and I just don't see either of these teams being able to deal with that. So, again, Miami, Ohio did get a pretty good draw here, even though they're a big underdog. The committee, I think, intentionally did this because they at least gave Miami, Ohio a pretty weak defense to have to deal with, and an SMU team that was sputtering down the stretch, and they're from a pretty bad conference, the ACC. So, Miami, Ohio could have had more difficult opponents than that, potentially. But that is what the committee did. Kyle, what's up? Thanks for hanging out. I kind of want that to happen, but I'm not convinced that SMU is going to totally blow them out there. I'm not going to have any college basketball plays today, by the way. I have one hockey and two NBA. Navy is playing Wake Forest as we get to the NIT first round here. All ESPN family games here. These games, remember, like I said yesterday, they're all being hosted by the higher seed. So the better seed, I should say. So the better seeded team is playing in their home arena. In this case, Wake Forest. Wake Forest, they're an ACC team. They're one of the better teams in this field here. They draw Navy. Navy, pretty good team this year, but they were a pretty lucky team for a while. They still should have won the Patriot League. The Patriot League was awful, and I thought Navy could potentially draw a decent matchup in the tournament, but that did not happen. And the way they lost, I think, is just brutal, man. Like, they had that game won. BU hitting a three after the clock operator didn't start the clock in time and hitting a three from half court. And Navy was all ready to make their first tournament since 1998 and probably should have. That was in the semifinals. They were going to have to beat Lehigh after that, but I think they would have. Lehigh is ass. So I think Navy could still be a disappointed team, even though they've had some time to get over it. Wake Forest, decent showing for them in the ACC tournament, I guess. They beat Virginia Tech. They lost to Clemson. They weren't expected to win either of those games. So, yeah, they weren't expected to do a whole lot this year. I would probably lay the points with Wake Forest here. The money is kind of agreeing with that. Again, I just don't know if Navy's going to be able to get over that loss that easily. The one thing that might keep them motivated is the fact that they get to face one of the power conference teams. That is one thing that will motivate some of these smaller guys in the NIT. Oh, we get to play Wake Forest, a team with a lot of history. ACC, it's the school where, David Robinson, I believe, went there. And I think David Robinson played there, right? Am I wrong about that? And then, although, actually, he was the Admiral, so did he go to Navy too? I don't know. Where the fuck did Robinson play? Wake Forest had Muggsy Bogues. I know that. One of my favorites, because I'm short. Anyway, 65% of tickets on Navy, 52% of the cash on Wake Forest. I'd probably lay it with Wake. Wake, they're kind of a mid-tempo team. They're better on offense than defense. Unlucky, according to KenPom. Navy is very lucky, according to KenPom. Well, 59th. Navy's a bit better defensively. Their offense is pretty bad, though, and Navy is going to try to slow it down. So, there are a couple of things to maybe like about Navy. They are the better defense, getting points there, and a slow-down team, and that's kind of what you look for with a team that is getting a lot of points. So, it's a kind of a tough call in that one. But, for me, slight lean towards Wake Forest based on the situation. Kent State is going to be going to Illinois State. Not a huge travel. There's some weird travel spots in the NIT here, weirder than we saw last night. This is not one of them. Kent State just going to Illinois from Ohio. Not really a big deal there. Kent State got knocked out of the MAC tournament. I believe they lost to Akron, which that is a rivalry game, Kent State against Akron. So, I don't know if Kent State's going to have any hangover effect from that. I don't think the game was really particularly close. Illinois State lost to their eventual conference champion as well in the Missouri Valley. They lost to Northern Iowa, and that game wasn't really close either. Kent State has less rest after that. The money's coming in on Illinois State. They dropped to -6 here. Kent State, 52% of the tickets. 58% of the money, though, on Illinois State. So the actual money on Illinois State, I could see some reasoning for it. They're on their home arena, so the home arena is still a decent advantage in the NIT because the road team isn't really that familiar with the venue. Even though I know we saw some of the home teams just not be motivated last night. Illinois State is also a top 100 defense, so they're a pretty good defense. They're going to try to slow it down, which the slowdown isn't what you really like when you're laying points, but I do like the fact that they're the better defense, and it's actually significant. Kent State is a more offensive team. They are the better offense. They try to go fast. They're also third in the country in luck, though, and Illinois State is a very unlucky team, according to KenPom. So I think I would probably lean towards laying it with Illinois State in that one, too, even though I know they're going to want to slow it down, play defense. The total is still kind of high because Kent State is involved in this game, and they try to speed it up and score. But, for me, I like the better defense usually in a situation like that, unless there's some, other reason to not like that. So I would probably lean towards Illinois State. Canadian Stoner, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. All right, we got George Washington and Utah Valley. This is probably the weirdest travel spot that we have here with, as we know, Kent State just played their conference tournament in Cleveland, as I should have pointed out. Navy last played in Maryland because they were playing on their home floor. So them going to North Carolina, I mean, that's a pretty easy trip as well. George Washington having to go from D.C. out to Utah is a very weird travel spot to go play Utah Valley, but I think Utah Valley, I don't know, man. It might take them a while to get over that loss because they blew like a 7-point lead at the end of that game against Cal Baptist, and that was the infamous game where Cal Baptist, we're going to talk about Cal Baptist in their game against Kansas, although I don't think they're going to win it, but they do have a guy, Dominique Daniels is his name. Is it Dominique Daniels or Dominique Davis? I forget. Double D, whatever the dude's name is. He hit like 3 threes in a row at the end of this game against Utah Valley. He actually had a bad game in that game until the end, and he just made every shot at the very end of that game. That's pretty much why Cal Baptist won. That and Utah Valley missed a dunk that would have tied the game and sent it into overtime at the end, which is pretty inexcusable. I mean, it was an alley-oop. It wasn't like the guy was just driving to the basket and dunking it, but still, I don't know how you missed that because he wasn't really being defended. He just completely fucked it up. Utah Valley blew a 7-point lead in the final minute and a half of that game. I watched the end of it too. It was brutal. So I don't know how Utah Valley gets over that, man. And they were that close to having their first tournament appearance in program history. It would have been huge for that program. George Washington, I mean, they did blow their game as well. They almost knocked St. Louis out of their conference tournament. George Washington was winning that game by 20-something in the first half. They lost by 7, but it was pretty close at the end of that game. It was a weird game where it was George Washington up 20 early. They were up 14 at halftime. St. Louis completely swung the game in the second half. St. Louis, good second half team. They completely flipped the script, and they had like a 9-point lead near the end of the game. And then I think George Washington might have gotten close to tying it back up before St. Louis, built the lead a little bit, and then I think GW had to foul them at the end of the game, which is why they wound up winning by 7. It was kind of an insane game. So, GW, with the fact that they have to also come off of a game where they almost pulled off a huge upset. Utah Valley was the favorite. They should have won that game. But George Washington coming off a game where they almost won as a huge underdog, pretty much. That's going to be brutal as well, and having to travel to a very unfamiliar environment, into Utah, into high elevation, whatever. I can't get there with George Washington, but I think I would lean that way because I just don't know how Utah Valley is going to get back up off the mat after losing that WAC final with the way that they did. Utah Valley down to a 2-point favorite, 58% of the tickets, 53% of the cash on them. So the money is coming in against Utah Valley here as a small favorite. George Washington, I think this might be like kind of a numbers thing because George Washington, they are a top 100 team. Utah Valley is as well, actually, by the way. As you can see with the number, Utah Valley is only a small favorite here for that reason. George Washington is literally the unluckiest team in the country, though. Utah Valley is way more lucky. So according to KenPom, George Washington should have had a way better record than they did. And I think the public might just see the records and think, oh, yeah, Utah Valley, way prettier record, makes sense to play them. The one thing Utah Valley may have going for them is they are the better defense. George Washington is a better offense, and both teams actually kind of play at a faster tempo, which is interesting, which you wouldn't think that with Utah Valley, because they don't really seem to put up a ton of points sometimes, but and their offense doesn't look great at times, and some of their free throw shooters aren't very good. George Washington, both these teams are actually really bad free throw shooting teams, I believe, from what I've seen. KenPom probably will show you the numbers, but like I saw these teams shoot free throws in clutch, and their free throw shooters have bad percentages. They're not good, so that's also kind of an interesting thing there. Both of those teams are bad at free throws. By the way, a couple of bad free throw shooting teams in the NCAA tournament, by the way. Iowa State and Miami, I believe, are both pretty bad at that. All right, anyway, let's finish the NIT here, man. I don't have any plays here, so we'll keep going. Dayton is going to Bradley here. Bradley is in Illinois for the uninitiated here. So Utah Valley, by the way, is coming back from Las Vegas. I just point out what these travel spots look like here. Illinois State was in St. Louis, so not a huge travel spot to come back there. And they've been home for a while now, probably. Dayton and George Washington were both playing their conference tournament in D.C. Why do I keep saying it was D.C.? It was Pittsburgh. It was Pittsburgh. So Dayton's going from Pittsburgh to Illinois, whatever. Bradley coming in from St. Louis. That's an easier travel spot there. Bradley got knocked out of the semifinals, I want to say, maybe in the Missouri Valley. They're another team that lost to Northern Iowa, I'm pretty sure. Bradley was kind of a false 2 seed in that conference, though. They're not really as good. Dayton was one of the better teams in the A-10. This game is a difficult handicap. Dayton did make the final. Like, they played on Sunday, so they have a quick turnaround here. But they weren't really that close in that game against VCU. The game was pretty much over for the entirety of it. The money is still coming in towards Bradley, though. Dayton's a -1.5 favorite here. So odds makers telling you Dayton is the better team, which I do agree with. But 64% of tickets on them, 55% of the cash. So the money is sort of indicating on Bradley here. And part of it is because they're the more rested team. Bradley is pretty lucky, according to KenPom, but their record doesn't really look that good anyway. They're a balanced team, though, at least. They play mid-tempo. Nothing really special about them. I mean, they're not really horrible necessarily at anything. Dayton is a much better defense, so there is that for Dayton. They are a pretty lucky team, according to KenPom, though, as well, and they're a bit slower than Bradley is. Dayton, they are the better team, especially because their defense is significantly better. So I don't necessarily want to fade that, but of course the NIT, you can't just look at the numbers. A lot of it is about motivation, situation, whatever. Dayton having to go to kind of a weird travel spot and having played way more recently on Sunday. I wouldn't really disagree with Bradley in that one, but not really a strong opinion at all. Sam Houston is having to go to New Mexico. Not really that weird of a travel spot, I guess, going from Texas to New Mexico there, although Sam Houston in the Conference USA, I think they were in Huntsville, Alabama when they last played, and they looked like they were going to win. Once Liberty got bounced from Conference USA, it was Sam Houston. They were the team to beat in that conference tournament after Liberty got knocked out. I thought Sam Houston was better than Liberty, actually, and Sam Houston got knocked out by the eventual conference champion, Kennesaw State, which is bizarre. Kennesaw State, they're a team that goes up-tempo. That's what they do. They just play fast. They score, which is probably not going to play well against Gonzaga, who does that as well and is just way better than Kennesaw. I mean, I saw that draw, and I'm like, Gonzaga got such an easy draw, dude. Oh, man, in the tournament there. But, yeah, New Mexico, I mean, they're good. But the question is, how does New Mexico respond to not making the tournament? Because they were on the bubble. And then they had a really tough game, close loss to San Diego State in the Mountain West semifinals. But San Diego State didn't get into the tournament either. So it looks like New Mexico would have had to have actually won the conference tournament. So they were going to have to win this game and beat Utah State to get in, which maybe they would have been able to do. They're a bit of a different style team than San Diego State is. So I don't know how New Mexico is going to respond to that. They're coming back to their home arena from Las Vegas here. But New Mexico's home arena is very difficult to play in, especially if you're not used to it. It's a very loud arena, although I don't know how the crowd is going to be for an NIT game. But, probably not as crazy as it would be for a more meaningful game. New Mexico, I mean, they're pretty good this year. They're a little bit better on defense than offense, which we're not really used to seeing out of New Mexico usually. They are still fast, which is something like, again, Sam Houston just lost to a fast-paced team like Kennesaw, so New Mexico might be a bad matchup for them. And New Mexico actually pretty unlucky, according to KenPom, like a bottom 60 luck team. Kennesaw plays super fast. Anyway, Sam Houston, they actually play fast as well. They're just not as good on either side of the ball as New Mexico. Not even close on defense, really. They're unlucky as well, according to KenPom. We know, obviously, New Mexico's the way better team. The money is slightly indicating on New Mexico. They're a 12-point favorite, 64% of tickets, 71% of the cash on them. I actually kind of lean towards Sam Houston in this one, though. Even though I don't know if the matchup is particularly that good. New Mexico, again, they were one of those bubble teams, man. So they're pretty close to making the tournament. And their last game was a huge, tough game, brutal game against San Diego State. Whereas Sam Houston lost as a favorite to a team that does not play physical defense. Like San Diego State plays physical, man. Kennesaw State, no. So Sam Houston's coming off the less physically taxing game, and a game, that they should have won. So you got a team that was a favorite that lost kind of inexplicably up against a team that is coming off a real tough game against one of their big rivals, brutal game. I think I would actually take the points with Sam Houston in that one if I was going to play it, but I don't love it. Although that was actually probably my strongest opinion out of all of these today. Maybe Georgia, I don't know. Georgia Washington, I don't love it either. Anyway, Murray State, they're located in, where the fuck are they? Kentucky? I think they're in Kentucky. I don't know. They're having to go to Nevada now. That's going to be difficult too, man. Actually, yeah, they probably are in Kentucky, right? Because they're the racers. They got the horse racing shit. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But they're having to go all the way to Reno to play Nevada here. Nevada staying in the state of Nevada because they just played in the Mountain West tournament in Las Vegas. So this is a weird travel spot for Murray State. Murray State really disappointed down the stretch. Didn't do well in their conference tournament. They're a good offense and not a good defense. And they play fast. So they live up to their name, the Racers. Nevada, pretty solid team in the Mountain West. They took, a pretty decisive loss in the Mountain West semifinals to Utah State, who was the best team in the conference and won the conference. Nevada, 8.5-point favorite here, but they're taking the money. It looks like 52% of tickets, 78% of the cash on them. The only thing I will say is maybe Murray State gets a little bit more excited for this game because they get to play a team that's from, a somewhat bigger conference, but they're not getting to play one of the power conference guys, so I don't know. I mean, Nevada does have a little bit of a name in basketball, I guess, but Murray State, I don't like their defense. Like I said, they're very lopsided. They're pretty lucky, according to KenPom, too. They play fast. They score. They don't play defense. Nevada is much more balanced. They slow the game down. They play better defense. They're less lucky, according to KenPom, kind of a mid-luck team. I'd probably agree with laying the points with that one, but yeah, I don't love it either. And then St. Joe's has to go from the East Coast. They're a Philadelphia team, and they just played in Pittsburgh. Excuse me, I keep saying D.C. Pittsburgh. I think I fucked that up yesterday. They got to go into elevation and play Colorado State. I mean, that is a weird spot for them as well. Colorado State coming back from Vegas here. Really, really weird travel spot for St. Joe's. One of the weirdest ones on the board here. St. Joe's lost to VCU in the semifinals in the A-10 there. Wasn't close. St. Joe's is a bad team, dude. Like, I keep telling you, they're not even as good as their record makes them look. Colorado State lost early on in the Mountain West tournament against San Diego State. A lot of it's going to come down to motivation here. The money is coming in at Colorado State. I think it's a very, very odd travel spot. Like, I don't know how St. Joe's is going to adapt to playing in elevation like this. Colorado State is the better team as well. They're minus 5.5, 57% of tickets, 80% of the cash on Colorado State. I wouldn't really disagree with Colorado State here. They're not really that great on defense, though. They're much better on offense. And interestingly, they play really, really slow. They're also kind of a lucky team, according to KenPom. Kind of a weird mix for Colorado State there. St. Joe's is one of the luckiest teams in the country, though, at 20th. They're actually better. They're actually the better defense, believe it or not, but they can't score. And believe it or not, they actually play a bit faster. Very, very strange matchup here, to be honest. St. Joe's is technically the better defense getting points here. So if you buy into that, but, again, it's a game I want to stay away from, but I'll slightly lean with the money to Colorado State there. And then UIC is going to California. That's a weird travel spot, too. UIC going from St. Louis, and they're a Chicago team, of course. They're going all the way out to Cal. California's having to travel cross country, though. Cal, you remember, they're in the ACC now, so they were just out at the ACC tournament in Charlotte, North Carolina, and now they're traveling all the way back to Berkeley, California. Very, very insane travel spot, kind of. I mean, for both teams, it kind of is, but Cal having to do two cross-country trips is a little bit crazy. And Cal, they were somewhat of a bubble team. They lost right away in the ACC tournament to Florida State, who looked pretty good in that tournament, almost beat Duke, an injured Duke team, but still. Disappointing showing from Cal. UIC might actually get up for this game, and UIC, the one thing that they are good at, they're pretty good at defense, and they're better than people think they are this year. Like, they actually made the Missouri Valley final, and Northern Iowa easily beat them, but still, UIC had a much better season than anybody thought they would. Like, they're usually like kind of a doormat, and they had a great season this year. So I don't think they're usually in any of these postseason tournaments. I think they'll be excited about it, actually. UIC, they get to face an ACC team, a power conference team. Yeah, a team that almost made the tournament. I think they might get up for this. Cal is down to a 5-point favorite here. 89% of tickets, 98% of the cash on them. They look like they're going to be a public side. This is a late night game. That's the one other thing you have to worry about. With like a more easterly team going out west and playing a really late game, it might mess with their biological clock, But Cal is having to travel back cross country as well here. Cal's 73rd in KenPom's rankings. Decent on defense, top 100 in both offense and defense. Mid-tempo team, and they were lucky, according to KenPom. 69th in luck. Illinois Chicago almost made the top 100 in KenPom. They're actually a top 100 defense. They play slow, and they were unlucky, according to KenPom. So it's an interesting matchup. I mean, Cal is still the better defense here, but UIC's defense is not that bad. They're going to try to slow the game down, and they might be motivated. So I would actually lean towards UIC in that one, plus the points. So those are my thoughts on that. Yeah, all right, let's get into NHL here. Only 6 NHL games here. We have New Jersey at New York at the Rangers here. A regional matchup here. These teams don't like each other. The Devils coming off beating my Bruins in overtime the other night. Bruins just lost another overtime game last night, I think, to the hated Montreal Canadiens. Devils, nice win over the Bruins. Now they're playing the Rangers. They just beat the Rangers on March 7th, 6-3 in New Jersey. So there might be a little bit of a revenge angle here, quick revenge. The Rangers might have some adjustments to make here. The Rangers, we know they're really, really bad at home, though. That's one thing you have to look at when they're at home. 9-16-6 at home, very, very bad. Devils have no road overtime games, or no road overtime losses, 16-16. Yeah. New York Rangers, they're coming off a bad loss at home to the Kings the other night. Of course, the Rangers lost at home again. What else is new? They might be in bounce-back mode after that, because that was the first game back from a trip. Even though it was a quick trip, a lot of times you have a bad game, you bounce back from it. They lost a 4-game win streak, so I guess you could argue there'll be a hangover from that. Sometimes when you lose a win streak, that happens. I would lean to the Rangers in this game, though, even though I know they're at home. They're bad at home. The money is not agreeing with me on that, even though New Jersey dropped from -115 to -109. That's how bad the Rangers are. The odds makers are lining New Jersey as a road favorite here. 50% of tickets, 82% of the cash on the Rangers. On New Jersey. The money's coming in on the Devils. I kind of disagree with it. I would lean to the Rangers, though. And, yeah, the one thing, I guess, is there will be a lot of New Jersey fans in attendance, I guess, because it's a close, rivalry matchup. So, the crowd's going to be mixed at the game.
Hey, will you sit down? Hey, man, I'm just trying to support the team. you sit down? You're disturbing everybody. Sit down.
Oh, yeah, because you're a Rangers fan and you know I'm messing with their heads.
Had to do that because that was the Devils at the Rangers in that scene there as well. All right. Pittsburgh and Carolina. Pittsburgh, I mean, they're near the top of the standings in the Metro Division, man. Like, I don't think they're going to catch Carolina, but they're having a good season, although, you know, I'll still probably make the argument the rest of this division besides Carolina is just not that good. Pittsburgh is coming off a really, really good win in Colorado. So I don't know how, you know, this is a big game as well against Carolina, but look at the scheduling spot. Pittsburgh just went out into, they actually were just at Carolina and they almost beat them back on March 10th. They went to a shootout and lost here at Carolina. Then they went out to Vegas, lost, then into elevation. They beat Utah. They beat Colorado. Now they're coming out of elevation, having to play Carolina again after putting a scare into them the last time. It's a tough spot, man, even though they should get up for this game. Coming off a huge win over Colorado, too, in elevation, which is kind of an unheard of win. Meanwhile, you got Carolina. Yeah, they played yesterday. Weird spot. They had to go to Columbus after a couple of days off. And they were coming off that win over Tampa Bay. Good win. So I said I leaned to Columbus yesterday, and Columbus won 5-1. Really ugly game for Carolina. Now, the returning home, really it was just kind of from only like a one-off trip to Columbus, really, because their other game was in Tampa Bay, and then they had 2 days off after that. So I don't think Carolina is going to be that tired, man, because they had 2 days off before yesterday. Yesterday's loss was disgustingly bad, and it was kind of predictable, whereas, it was kind of a sandwich spot, too, whereas for Pittsburgh, they're coming off a tough run of games and a huge, huge win in their last game, even though they have an extra day off or whatever. I would lean Carolina in this game, and it's one of my stronger hockey opinions. Carolina down from -170 to -153 here. 86% of the tickets, 98% of the cash on them. I like Carolina in that game. Money line or, split puck line, money line. Maybe the money line will drop a little bit further. I don't know if it will, but yeah, I think Carolina gets that one. Ottawa at Washington. Ottawa just destroyed San Jose 7-4. When you beat anybody 7-4, sometimes you are kind of feeling pretty good about yourselves. They're having to have this one-off trip to Washington, which is a little weird. Washington not having the greatest season, and Ottawa does have the Islanders on deck who are having a better season. Washington's been okay, though. Washington did just lose to my Bruins back at home on the 14th. So Washington's staying at home, and they've had a lot of time off. Ottawa off of a kind of satisfying win with maybe a bigger game on deck. I like Washington in this one. Ottawa getting some of the money right now, it looks like. They're up to -125 from -115. 58% of tickets, 64% of the cash on Ottawa. So the money looks like it's on Ottawa. I don't agree with that one, but it is what it is. And then TNT HBO Max, second game of the doubleheader after Devils Rangers. You get Dallas and Colorado. This is a good game. Possibly the top two teams in the NHL, to be honest. Maybe Carolina in there as well. Tampa, I guess, has an argument as well. Dallas just took a really ugly loss to Utah, which I told you I liked Utah in that game. I think that was a lean for me. Dallas coming off some satisfying wins. They had this big game on deck. Utah wasn't playing that well at the time. Utah's pretty good, though. Dallas took the bad home loss, 6-3. Doesn't look good. They had DeSmith in net for that one, too, so they had their lesser goalie in net as well. So you're going to get Dallas in bounce-back mode with their better goalie back in net, Ottinger. They're going to focus. They're going to be going to Colorado here. Problem is, they're probably going to run into a focused Colorado team, too, because Colorado, as I said, they just lost horribly to Pittsburgh. Colorado was coming back from a couple of games on the road. Maybe got caught in like a distraction spot. Maybe they were looking ahead to Dallas. Could have been a look ahead for both teams. I don't know what that was, but they lost horribly, 7-2 on their home ice. So both teams are going to show up for this one, I would have to imagine. I think in that case, I'm going to lean towards the better team and the team at home. I think Colorado's loss was a little bit more embarrassing as well. I'll lean to Colorado here. 67% of tickets, 62% of the cash on Dallas. So Dallas looks like one of those dreaded public underdogs there. Colorado dropped from -155 to -145, but Yeah, I would look Colorado money line, I guess, probably in that one. One of the cheaper prices you'll find on Colorado, throughout the year. I mean, the cheapest you'll get is when they're on the road, but, pretty cheap price for Colorado, especially at home. It's the cheapest you'll get because Dallas is really, really good as well, but I like Colorado in that one. This next one almost made my card, St. Louis and Calgary. St. Louis just lost at Winnipeg. They have a couple of days off here. Decent spot for St. Louis. They're already up in Canada. They're traveling from Winnipeg to Calgary. Usually, I think you're not going to pay attention to Calgary, but you can explain why St. Louis lost to Winnipeg, because St. Louis had just beaten Carolina and Edmonton the 2 games before that, so letdown spot most likely. Now, they could be in a bounce-back spot here going to Calgary. Calgary, they're a bad team, and they're in a bad spot. They're returning home from a road trip that took them all the way to the East Coast. They've been away since Monday, March 9th. Wasn't a good road trip. They lost all but 1 game on the road trip, but a lot of times teams will not bounce back when they come back home, man, especially bad teams. They'll get distracted. You got to get back to home life. You got stuff to do back at home. I don't know how close. This actually was a fairly close game. This is a game I gave out a loser on this. Calgary at Detroit, finishing the road trip there. Calgary actually won 60% of the faceoffs in that game, although that would indicate you might want to look towards Calgary in this game, but I would fade them here. Calgary was within 1 goal towards the end of the second period in that game, and then they gave up an empty net goal near the end of the game, so the final score makes it a little bit misleading, but what I think we could say is that Calgary put in a big effort in that game. Now they're returning home, and they have a bigger game on deck as well, I believe. Let me see. Because, I mean, the Blues, you're not really going to pay attention to the Blues. They got Florida on deck, the returning champs back-to-back, and then Tampa after that. So I like the Blues in this one, man. A bad team in a bad spot, returning home from a road trip. You know what? I'm going to add this to my card. I think, fuck it. Blues up from -115 and -120. 67% of tickets, only 58% of the cash on Calgary. Sometimes you get a couple of spots that you like, man. I have 2 hockey plays. I've been playing both of the late games here. Yeah, why not? Let's do it. St. Louis. Let's see what the best prices we can get on this. They're -120, it looks like. 60% of tickets, 52% of the cash on Calgary. Public looks like they're on Calgary here. I don't know why they would be. I mean, I know the Blues are bad, but both teams are bad. And fading a bad team in a bad spot is something you might want to do here. And, of course, the Blues are at least the better of these 2 teams. I see -121 out there. That's what we're going to go with. All right. There you go. St. Louis Blues money line. And this is the best bet segment here. And the last one is going to be Philadelphia Flyers on the money line here against Anaheim here. I know Anaheim's really good at home, so that's one thing that I do worry about, but the spot is pretty bad. Anaheim down from -155 to -150 here. 78% of tickets, 81% of the cash right now, but I think they will be a public side here. I like the Flyers for a few reasons. The Flyers are coming off a pretty bad home loss to the Blue Jackets, although Blue Jackets have been all right this year. They've had multiple days off. They haven't played since Saturday, so they have a lot of rest, which I think is good because normally I don't like these Eastern teams going out west for a 10 p.m. game, because it can mess with your biological clock to start the road trip. But in this case, I think they're going to be focused to start the road trip because you get Anaheim, who's a pretty decent team, and you have multiple days off. So hopefully Philadelphia is smart, and they already made the travel and adjusted to the time zone. You know what I mean? Like when you have these days off, use them to your advantage. Get out there and adjust to the time zone already. You know what I mean? So hopefully they did that. But the spot is horrible for Anaheim. As I already mentioned, they're returning home from a road trip. They crossed the country. So we're going to fade 2 teams that had cross-country trips here. Anaheim's been away since last Tuesday. They went up to Winnipeg. It was an all-Canada road trip, and they went all the way to eastern Canada. Now they're coming all the way back from Montreal all the way down to Anaheim. It's one of the longest trips in the NHL that you can make. And they beat Montreal to finish the road trip. That was a nice win for Anaheim at Montreal. Montreal decent team this year. That was a game where they were a decent-sized favorite. Anaheim usually not that good on the road. Huge win for Anaheim. Now they're back home. They get Utah and Buffalo coming up next, which I think both those games are going to be bigger for them. I mean, Utah is in their conference. Utah's been an okay team. Philadelphia just kind of struggling, man, a middling team from another conference. Anaheim, of course, returning home from a road trip. Like I said, a lot of times you won't pay attention to your first opponent when you come back from the road. I know they've had a couple of days off, but that can cause you to settle back in and actually exacerbate it a little bit more because you're focusing on home life, And they have to go back out on the road, too, so that makes it even worse. They got to go to Utah after this, you know what I mean? So you're only home for a very brief period of time, so you've got to get done what you got to get done at home. Having one game in between a road trip and then another road game is always difficult, man. So I like that. We're going to go with Philadelphia here. I know Anaheim's really good at home. We're fading that. 22-10-1 at home. Philadelphia is okay on the road. 16-12-4 on the road. Yeah, I'm still okay with doing it. We're going to do it. I will take both. We'll fade both teams returning home from road trips in the NHL here today. And I think we're on teams that are basically in positive spots, I think, as well. Bounce back spots or whatever you want to call it. So, yeah, that's what we're doing in that. That's what we're doing in hockey. All right, let's go to NBA. We have numerous NBA games here. I think there are about 9, 10 NBA games today. There's an ESPN doubleheader. First game up is Golden State at my Boston Celtics on ESPN in the doubleheader here. Golden State did just beat Washington. Unfortunately, they covered by a half point because that was a loser. I gave it on the show. Porzingis, former Celtic, played in that game, so he might play against his former team here. Still, this is a very injured Golden State team, man. They're in a little bit of a tough spot here, even though I know beating Washington, no big deal. And they ended a losing streak, so that is positive that they'll have some positive momentum coming into this game, at least ending that losing streak. But they're also playing a third game in 4 days, fourth in 6 days, all in different cities, which isn't that easy to do. They're a shorthanded team. They're without Curry, without Butler, all that. The Celtics coming into this game off of beating Phoenix. That was a nice win for the Celtics at home, but they are staying at home. They're a little bit more rested here. It's a TV game. I don't really hate the Celtics in this spot. They did just beat Golden State on the road, though. I feel like that wasn't that long ago. Yeah, there it is. February 19th, the Celtics did beat them in Golden State by 11, and that was before Jason Tatum came back, and he is back now. Injury report check real quick here. Yeah, I'm pretty sure all that I said about Golden State is right. I don't believe the Curry is back. I don't know if and when he will ever be. Let me see. Yeah, he's not listed there. It looks like Draymond Green is back, but I don't know. What is he going to do at this point? He's really, really old. I don't know. The Celtics are laying a ton of points in this game, though. So for my purposes, I just hope they win, man. Celtics need to get Vucevic back, but they're a pretty deep team. Their other guys are healthy. Celtics 11.5 is the number on this. 71% of tickets, 81% of the cash on the Celtics. I don't really have a strong reason to disagree with laying the points with the Celtics, but not a strong opinion, and I just hope they win. Oklahoma City at Brooklyn. This is a crazy line. This is going to be one of the most insane spreads that you'll see for a road team. Oklahoma City's close to a 20-point road favorite in this game. It's unbelievable. And they're on a back-to-back. How much more crazy can you get? How can you have a team laying 20 points on the road on a back-to-back? Oklahoma City had a somewhat bigger game last night. They beat Orlando last night in Orlando. Now they're going up to Brooklyn, no time off. Third game in the last 4 days. They beat Minnesota the game before that. Brooklyn, they're dead. They're done for the season, but I don't think I would lay this, man. If you look at the NBA standings, by the way, it looks like the teams that are outside of the play-in portion of the playoffs, there's a huge gap there in both conferences. So basically, all the teams that are out at this point, pretty much, and the Nets are one of those teams. The play-in teams might still be playing to try to avoid the play-in, so we have to start looking at that type of motivation here down the stretch in the NBA. For Brooklyn, this is a game that maybe they will get up for. I mean, they are staying at home. They got blown out in their last game by Portland. I mean, you get the Thunder coming into your place, the best team in the league. That might be a game the Nets will actually give you some effort. The Thunder laying 19.5 is just insane. I mean, if I was going to play it, I would lean towards taking the points. I don't want to do it, but 60% of tickets, 85% of the cash on the Nets. I would agree with the Nets in that one, plus the points, obviously. Portland at Indiana. Portland just beat Brooklyn, as I just mentioned. Easy win over Brooklyn. Now they're going to Indiana. Third game in 4 days, fourth and 6, all in different cities. And they do have a big game on deck against Minnesota and then Denver. So possible look ahead there. And they just beat Indiana on March 8th back in Portland by 20 points. So they may not take Indiana seriously here, man. Indiana's coming off a blowout loss to the Knicks, which I told you the Knicks would take them seriously. That was last night, though, because Indiana played them close the other game. So they just went to New York. So Indiana's actually returning home from a 2-game road trip. It was just Sunday and Tuesday, but they are on a back-to-back, third game in 4 days, all in different cities. I would lean to Indiana still in this game, but I don't want to touch it. The money looks like it's coming in on Portland, but I really don't like the spot with Portland, and they're laying double digits on the road again, up to 11.5. 67% of tickets, 99% of the cash on the Blazers. So the money coming in on the Blazers, I don't know. I mean, the Blazers, the argument would be they're trying to avoid the play-in, sort of, because that's where they are right now. Basically, by default, they're the last team in the play-in right now in the Western Conference, because every other team has basically just quit. But I think they actually have a chance to potentially get out of the play-in and get like a 6th seed. I highly doubt it's going to happen, but I think it's technically possible. And the Pacers, you got to figure out if they're going to have motivation, because they're pretty much done for the season. But this might be a game they actually show up for. I don't know. Not a game I want to deal with. Next game up will be a play, though, for me. And I know in this game we're playing on a team that is one of the teams that's packed it in for the season, and we're going to fade a team that's trying to make sure they escape the play-in round and get into the playoffs. But I think that puts pressure on Toronto here. We're going to take the Bulls plus 7.5 here. I don't like the spot for Toronto. Toronto just beat Detroit in their last game. That was a huge win for Toronto. Toronto looks like they're very likely to be in the playoffs and avoid the play-in. Not definitively, but that was a huge win. And then on deck, they got the Denver Nuggets, man. They got to go out to Denver after this, and then Phoenix, whatever. So they're technically starting a road trip here. But, I always say when you start a road trip, you are focused more often than not. But coming off a monster win over Detroit, I don't like the spot here. And then again, Denver on deck. I think it's a sandwich spot for Toronto here, man. Now, Toronto, they are better on the road. I get it, 19-13, but laying a bunch of points, I don't like it. We don't need Chicago to win. We just need them to cover. Chicago's been really bad, but they're at least close to 500 at home. And Chicago, they might still be putting in some effort because they did just blow out Memphis in their last game. And that was a bad spot, too. They returned home from the Pacific Coast, and they still beat Memphis. So that kind of tells me that Chicago is actually still putting in effort. And you look at their recent games, they have actually done that. They beat Golden State on the road. They played reasonably close against the Lakers and the Clippers. Beat Memphis by a ton in a bad spot at home. So I think they are showing up for these games right now. I know they do have to play Cleveland tomorrow, but if you're Chicago, I don't know. I just don't think you're really going to overlook a team like Toronto. A team that's going to be in the playoffs like Toronto. Playoffs. Toronto -7, 7.5 here. I saw 7.5s pretty abundantly out there. 59% of tickets and cash on Toronto. We're going to take it with the Bulls, though, in that one. All right. Then we got Utah, Minnesota. Man, ugly game here. Utah, they just lost to the Kings in their last game. Couple of days off. Maybe Utah will show up for a game, especially because it's against Minnesota, a good team. Maybe you'll get an effort out of Utah here, coming off a really ugly loss to a bad team. Minnesota's coming off a decent win over Phoenix, and that was last night. So they actually returned home from a road trip. Didn't fall into the hangovers or whatever, the hangover spot, the distraction spot, whatever. Good win against Phoenix, who is going to be a playoff team, I believe. Then they have to turn around and play again right away against Utah. And they do have Portland on deck, then Boston, Houston, Detroit. All those games are bigger than this game against a team that's not going anywhere after the season with Utah. So, well, except for on vacation, probably. The money's coming in on the T-Wolves, but I don't really agree with that. They're minus 13.5 now, 61% of tickets, 91% of the cash on them. I'd lean towards taking the points with the Jazz in that one. But again, you have to kind of figure out, will the Jazz be motivated? So, like I'm hoping that my assessment of Chicago is right and that they will be. I don't know about Utah. Clippers are going to be at New Orleans, and this is a hilarious-looking line where people are going to look at this and say, how is New Orleans favored in this game? Their record being so bad. Like the Clippers' record is a lot worse than they actually are. But even the Clippers' record looks a lot better than New Orleans. New Orleans is just not as bad as people think they are and what the record looks like. They've had a lot of injuries and stuff, but I think they're fairly healthy right now, playing a little bit better-ish. Clippers are playing better too, but the Clippers are coming off a huge game against San Antonio. They played them close again. Now they're going out to New Orleans. They're playing 2 games in a row against New Orleans here, back-to-back days. I just don't know how excited they're going to get for this New Orleans game. The Clippers, they're going to be in like the play-in most likely in the playoffs. Like they're not going to miss the play-in, although technically they are, technically they're trying to play to avoid the play-in and get one of the other seeds there in the playoffs, but we'll see what actually happens there. New Orleans just beat Dallas, staying at home here. The play-ins are fucking stupid, though. The playoff expansion, I think, has made the NBA worse, dude. Like 10 teams making the playoff / play-in. It's just so stupid, especially in the NBA when like the upper echelon teams in 7-game series, home court, like those upper echelon teams are going to win out. You know what I mean? It's just kind of ridiculous. Although I know the Pacers surprised last year, whatever, but the East just was kind of weak last year, and there were a lot of injuries going on in the East last year, so I think that was a little bit more of an outlier. Anyway, New Orleans did win against Dallas, so they are showing some motivation here. They've won 3 of their last 4 games. Did beat Toronto in there, so that was a decent win. And they played Houston really close again in the middle of that. So they're actually showing up for games. So I would actually probably lean to the Pelicans in this game. They're getting the money, too. They're up from 1-2 here. 67% of tickets on the Clippers, 60% of the cash on the Pelicans. Maybe they'll play, hey, we get to spoil the season for the Clippers here or whatever. Maybe. I don't know. Atlanta at Dallas. Atlanta is still on a win streak here. And I still am not impressed by it. They did win against Orlando at home in their last game, which was the best win they've had in this entire 9 or 10 game win streak, whatever it is here. Most of the wins have been really, really unimpressive. That was the best one so far. Now they're playing Dallas on the road. They just beat Dallas at home by 12 during this recent winning streak here. They might overlook them, man, because they got Houston on deck, which is a bigger game. Even Golden State after that is a big. Golden State, by the way, they are trying to maintain a play-in. They're already in the play-in, I think, but they might be trying to actually get into the playoffs and avoid the play-in. So I forgot to mention that. That might be a motivation for them against the Celtics, but they're already going to be motivated when they play the Celtics. You know what I mean? Atlanta. Yeah, might be looking ahead to Houston here. I mean, at some point, they're going to lose this win streak, and they don't need to lose this game for Dallas to cover. You know what I mean? If you take Dallas here, you're just taking them as an underdog. Dallas is playing a 3rd game in 4 days, all in different cities, which is a little bit difficult. They lost to New Orleans on Monday, but they were coming off a huge win over Cleveland, so you can kind of predict Dallas's recent run is kind of predictable, right? Like, they got blown out by Cleveland at home, then they went on the road and they zigzagged. Cleveland took them unseriously the next time, most likely, and Dallas beat them. Then that put Dallas in a letdown spot the very next night, and they lost to New Orleans. That doesn't surprise me either. Now they're playing this Atlanta team. Yeah, they're returning home from a road trip, but it was a quick road trip. New Orleans back to Dallas, not a big deal. They did just lose to Atlanta not long ago, so I do lean to Dallas in this one. Atlanta looks like they're getting some of the money right now. They're down to 8.5, but 62% of tickets, 86% of the cash on them laying the 8.5. But I would lean towards taking the points with Dallas, as bad as they might look. Denver is going to Memphis here. Denver just crushed the 76ers last night. I thought the Sixers would be more competitive in that game. Denver wasn't in a very good spot, and they still blew them out. That Sixers team nobody playing for that team right now. But nobody's playing for Memphis either. But now Denver is on a back-to-back. They did have a couple days off before yesterday's game, so I don't think they're going to be that tired. But still, they beat Philadelphia, who is at least going to be, I think, in the playoff play-ins. Now they get Memphis, so they do have a playoff team on deck with Toronto, so they might overlook Memphis here. Memphis has been playing awful, and maybe they'll show up for a game because they get to play against Denver. You know, that's a big deal. They're hosting them. Memphis is returning home from a road trip, but only a 2-game road trip. Detroit, Chicago, not really a big deal. They've lost a ton of games in a row. This might be the type of game they do actually put in an effort for once against a good team like Denver. I'd lean towards Memphis plus the points there. Nuggets are a 13.5-point favorite, 56% of tickets on them, 57% of the cash coming in on the other side on the Grizzlies, which is the way that I lean there. All right, and then final game, I'm going to give out a play on the final game on ESPN. It's a big game, but we're going to go with the Zigzag here, and we're going to play Houston minus 2.5, which is the same number that they were in the first game. They were minus 2.5 the first game against the Lakers. And the Lakers surprisingly won the game. Like, I did not think that was going to happen. The Lakers had beaten Denver the game before that. Lakers have been playing well recently, but I still don't buy it, man. The Lakers are still like a bottom 10 defense in the NBA. Houston is a much better defense, and Houston is much better at home. And after Houston lost that game, I don't think it's going to happen again, man. This was kind of a ridiculous outcome. Houston looked like they were starting to pull away in the third quarter, and then I don't know what happened there, and they blew that lead, wound up losing the game. And for Houston, they scored 4 points in the final 6+ minutes of the game. They were winning the game 88-85, and then they got outscored 15-4 in the remainder of the game. Something like that's not going to happen again, especially with a Laker defense that's questionable at best. You can see what happened in the game here, too. Houston only hit 5 threes in the game. That's a pretty big outlier, I think, as well. I don't think they're like the biggest three-point shooting team, you know, because Houston's more of a paint presence team, but still, that's kind of ridiculous. They shot horribly from 3. And although the Lakers only hit 8 themselves, but also the free throw disparity was in favor of the Lakers. They got sent to the line 22 times. Houston only 15, so that was kind of an outlier in the game as well. Houston dominated in the paint, 44 rebounds to 32. So that's one of the best stats to look at, in my opinion. You can see that Houston actually really kind of dominated the game in that way, the physical aspects of the game. And Houston had a ton of turnovers. They lost the turnover battle by double, 24-12. So I think that's an outlier too. That's something that's going to get cleaned up. I don't think they're going to turn it over that much again. Houston is 23-9 at home, so they are really good at home. The Lakers are pretty good on the road. I get that, 20-13, but this is a zigzag. Like I said, Houston, I think they're the slightly better team, to be honest, and they're at home, getting the same number they had in the first game. With the adjustments to make, where I think they're actually the better team. I think the score in the first game was kind of misleading. We're going to go with Houston here. We do have to worry about Sengun has been injured for Houston. It looks like he might be back, though. I know he's been listed as injured for a while. The Lakers look like they don't really have much going on in their injury report here. But I don't think LeBron helps them that much at this point. I'm going to be honest, man. LeBron is so old. I think the Lakers are a little bit worse with him in there, to be honest. He kind of takes opportunities away from their younger guys there. Sengun is back, so we're getting a pretty much complete Houston team here. Yeah, I like Houston. That's where we're going here. They're up to 2.5, it looks like it's 2.5. You could probably find either. You know, if you want to go money line, you might be able to find a decent money line on it too. That's more of a college basketball thing that I would recommend than NBA. But if you find that, that's fine as well. Tough to read the percentages right now. 51% of tickets and cash looking like it's on Houston. But I think you pretty much know the public is going to play the Lakers here, right? Oh, the Lakers won the previous game. The Lakers have the better record. They're the Lakers. They score. You know, they have the star power. I mean, Houston has Kevin Durant, but, the Lakers have LeBron, Luka, Reeves. The public will be on the Lakers, man. Lakers have been extremely hot, and the public is very recency biased, too. 6 wins in a row with a bunch of big wins in here against the Knicks, Minnesota, Denver, Houston. The public, I'm assuming, will be on the Lakers here, but we will not do that. We'll play Houston. Another way, if you want to, because Houston had that scoring drought at the end of that game that really made things look bizarre. Lakers still not a good defense. If you wanted to go Houston over their team total, let me see what the number is on that. I don't hate that either. Let me see. Playing teams over their team total against the Lakers, I think, is generally a decent idea, to be honest. Houston's team total is 112.5, it looks like here. You might be able to get a little bit of a better number than that. That seems decent to me, to be honest. But yeah, we'll go with the spread, though, just because that's what I do. That's going to do it, man. So we got 4 plays today. NHL, 2 plays in the NHL. St. Louis, money line. Philadelphia, money line. NBA, we got Chicago plus the points. Houston minus the points. And that's going to do it. Yeah, thanks, everybody. Learn to Tone on Twitter. Learn to Tone on Instagram, you know. Like, subscribe to the channel here. Give me good replies here. If you subscribe, you get the notifications because I will go live with my, much anticipated filling out of my men's bracket, man. I know I did the women's one, which is less exciting, whatever, the other day. Still waiting to see who wins those play-in games. The play-in games for the women start tonight. I want to make sure, because I might tweak a couple of things in that bracket, but I think that one is unlikely to change at like the higher levels. Just maybe some of the first round matchups I might tweak a little bit. The hardest ones to figure out, man, and the least impact. But I'm going to try to figure out on my men's bracket, which is the one that we all make a bigger deal out of, man. We'll see what we can do with it. So that'll be tonight at some point. Probably kind of late because I want to see who wins the Miami, Ohio SMU game. You know what I mean? Because that's going to affect the line. They're going to play Tennessee, and if Tennessee draws Miami, Ohio, they're going to be like a 6-7 point bigger favorite than they would be against SMU. So that does matter to some degree. Although, well, I think either way, I'm probably going to still take Tennessee to win that game in my bracket, but I don't know. Because they're going to be a favorite, and that's just what you do with the brackets, which I'll talk about it when we get to it. Subscribe, and you'll get the notification for it. That'll be late tonight at some point, just like I did last year. Although I'm not going to do, like, the spreadsheet and stuff. That was just insane, dude. I think I'm going to do a similar one to what I did with the women's. I'm going to use the tools that I have at my disposal. I'll plug them a little bit and then compare them with the betting odds and stuff like that and try to figure it out that way. Anyway, yeah, because there's, like, law of diminishing returns, you know what I mean? When you put so much into it, like I did last year with all the betting odds. But, like, yeah, whatever. The tool that I use also factors in the recent injuries and stuff and the betting odds as well, I'm pretty sure. So it's pretty good. Anyway, that's going to do it. Yeah, what else do I have to plug here? Oh, listen on audio. This show's on audio. Apple, Spotify. Listen, review, all the things. Covered in Uke, my Uke channel on YouTube. You can check that out as well. Patreon.com/LearnToToad if you want to throw me some support that way. We get some bonus Uke stuff there. And Losercast. We had a new episode last night. You can check that out. I was also on Nephilim Death Squad last night. They had Cole from Tower Gang live in studio. And then Tyler and I jumped on remotely for it as well. So you can check that out. It was a fun hang, the power hang. That's going to do it, man. Tower Gang is not back, but it was power hang. Yeah, I think that's it, man. So be on the lookout, and I'll be back with the bracket show late tonight. That's going to do it. I appreciate it, guys. Let's get some wins today, and peace for now.